This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Leo. Great to be back.
Hello, Damien Sheridan. How are you, my friend?
Very well, Leo Walton, and so do you pray. I'm very well, thank you. Bright, lovely morning down south of Spain. Ready to go.
We've missed you, buddy, but you feel like you've been at the coalface a little bit, doing a fair few conferences. Fair to say?
Since actually, it's probably been 2 months or so since I was last with you, roughly. So yeah, we've had Dubai, we've had Italy, we've had London. We've got Paris next week. So yeah, it's been a busy time, but all good generally.
You don't do things by halves, do you? Why not just put on one big event through the year, and then you can rest for the remaining 11 months?
Those days, those innocent days when we just had one conference a year. Yeah, it's all changed. But no, it's all good. It's all good, and we're throwing in a little podcast and a little online community as well there. So yeah,
great.
Thanks for punishment. It's all good.
We'll edit out the bit where he starts promoting his own podcast on Good Morning Hospitality. Get rid of that. Damien, come on. Who do you think you are, buddy? No, come on. We're an open show. Tell us about your podcast.
No. Well, we have a podcast just that we interviewed.
Thanks, Sarah. Nice to see you. Sarah, how are you? You getting on well? Oh dear! Don't tell me. Talking about your own show. God, typical Damien, isn't it? Sarah, how are you, buddy? You well?
I am good. Yeah, I leave tomorrow to go to the States. I'm going to be in the States for a week for Thanksgiving, which I'm really excited about. And that just means that this week has been super stressful because everything is all coming to a head. I had some issues with the builders the other day too. So anyway, it will all be sorted. I don't even want to talk about it, or I might have to murder somebody. So I'm just gonna pretend that it's all okay, and I'm gonna get on a plane tomorrow morning and just be zen.
I mean, congratulations on getting on a plane, by the way. I guess Damien, you're probably in this boat as well because you've got small children. I get on a plane and I'm just like, yes. Relax, movies, bring me food. Yeah, bring me stuff. Are you a flyer, Sarah? Are you into it?
I don't mind if it's a long flight, as long as I have compression socks, because I don't need the cankles once you land, you know? But now that I've got the compression socks worked out, I don't have a problem with travel. It's okay. It depends on how long the flight.
I didn't realize you were a 90-year-old, but there you go. I'm into that. Okay, good.
Look, it's either that or cankles, and I am too young for that, you know? Too good looking and too young. Nobody needs them, so.
Amen, sister. Amen. Okay, great. Well, look, we've got, Damien, we're delighted to have you here, buddy. So I know we were teasing you before about your podcast, but it is great to see you here, buddy. I know you've been conferencing outside of that. How's family? How's life? Happy? All good?
Oh, very good. Yeah. We should be moving into quiet time now, looking towards next year, but it's not going to be. So yeah, the kids constantly saying, "Daddy, we want to play." Still at that like Lego age and Minecraft and all those things. And yeah, just trying to dedicate a bit of time to the kids where possible. But, yeah, all good.
Is that why you organise so many conferences? Because it's actually easier getting out of the house and organising an event than dealing with two children.
Lego versus conferences. And to be fair, I know which I choose. Anyway, yeah, no.
All right, gang. Well, look, let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about this week. There's a lot of stuff happening around Spain that we need to talk about. Damien, obviously based in the south of Spain. Sarah, based in Barcelona. So I really want to dig in, ask some questions about that. We'll make that the main part of the show. I'll talk a little bit about Portugal. There's a slightly different approach that's happening there, which we're definitely more pro here. SDR highlights. You guys have been super busy, so I think I'm the only one with a highlight this week. I think this is cool. I think this is very, very cool. So Airbnb announces a partnership with Waltham Forest, which is a borough of London, a very sort of diverse borough of London, which has museums, like great food. It's got the wetlands. It's a cool area. They are coming up with a partnership to help get home sharing a bit more commonplace. So obviously the idea is they're, discussing the benefits of renting out a spare room or doing it when you go on holiday. And they've also given £25,000 to a grassroots events and cultural initiatives in the borough, which is cool. And if you know London, if you don't, I can talk you through. But if you know London, you'll know Waltham Forest is in the northeast. So it's not right in the centre, which I think shows you how much Airbnb knows the suburbs are really, really good business for them. The transport connections get you into central London very, very quickly, but the price per night can be really, really competitive, especially for young people coming in. So this initiative, I think, is going two ways. It's going, look, if you're browsing on Airbnb, you're looking to be somewhere, you maybe want somewhere a bit more cost effective, come and have a look at this borough of London. It's got all these great things to offer. So much we can dig in on here. Sarah's going to have some cynical opinions as well, which I'm really looking forward to. But I would say this, I've got an outside shout for you. They've also created a landing page to sell the virtues of Waltham Forest. Is this Airbnb having a go at becoming a DMO?
Oh, so much to unpack there, Leo. I had never even thought about that.
Come on, give me some cynicism, Sarah. We need it.
Are they trying to become a DMO? I don't think so. Are they trying to get some of the marketing spend from DMOs? Probably. There's a lot of money there. The other thing that comes to mind is, like, if you want to go into London, unless price is the only thing that makes your decision, which I think we've talked about in Europe multiple times, travelers are much more sensitive to that. But I think it's going to attract a certain type of traveler. For me, like, especially when I go to a place like London or Paris, I'm there for 2 days, 3 days, or I'm max. I'm there for a specific event. I'm not trying to schlep on the train. So I think it has to be like either young people who have all the time in the world and are on a gap year and don't mind taking the train, or it's people who are there visiting family and friends that they just don't have room to house them, maybe. So I don't know. Is it like the boom? No, I think it's a marketing ploy.
There we go. Healthy bit of cynicism there. I mean, it's a cool borough though. There's there is lots going on. What I would also say about it is as well, it's a chance to kind of show how Airbnb can be a benefit to a community and not just a drag on community, which is what the political football kicking around message normally is. So there's also that element to consider as well. I didn't say that earlier. Damien, any thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, look, I'd also agree that there is a certain traveller who would do that. Like, you think of other boroughs around London, Leo, for example, you think of somewhere like Croydon, whatever your thoughts are about somewhere like Croydon, it's 20 minutes straight into Victoria. You could say that is, a similar kind of radius where people could be looking at. I don't see it. I think people who are going to London are going to London and they're not going to these suburbs. And realistically, those are, for me, probably more families or people who are just, as Sarah said, just going to those destinations. Seeing family or very specific. For me, it doesn't. There's no match here. It doesn't really make sense. But I applaud the move. Be we skeptical or not. I think there's a variety of marketing around the city is to be applauded in a certain way.
Yeah, and if they are dipping their toe in this idea of community engagement, I think that's smart. If that's something that gets rolled out wider than Waltham Forest. Well, look, that was very close to home for me as I sit in Hackney, 2 days away from moving to Brighton. But there you go, as I sit in Hackney. But let's go closer to your guys' home now. I don't know who wants to start. Maybe we go with you, Damien. Let's talk Spain. Let's talk Catalonia.
Well, I'm going to talk about Catalonia, but also I'm going to talk about the EHHA, which, for those who don't know, is the European Holiday Home Association. It formed, I think, 2013, or roughly 10 years or so ago. It's crazy that a lot of people in our sector do not still know about this organization. A lot. And they are doing some amazing things for us behind the scenes. Victoria Monyar, who is the Secretary General, I believe. She is fighting our industry cause in Brussels and on behalf of European countries and operators all around Europe. And yesterday there was an official press release with a complaint against the housing decree. I think, is that the name of it, Sarah? You'll know better. The Catalan decree, which is proposing to ban short-term rentals in a couple of years. And really, this is just an official complaint to say, no, we do not see a link between short-term rentals and affordable housing. That this is, and the important words here, disproportionate and unjustified, which I think we can very much relate to. We see this happening in many European countries. And it's an official kind of landmark case, I think, where the hope is that the European Commission will see this and bring an infringement procedure against Spain and hold this whole ban up. So I have heard for the last 6 months that there are numerous legal disputes that will happen, and this Barcelona ban is unlikely to happen anytime soon. But it's just good to see. I think it's a positive piece of news. All we're hearing is regulation bans over the last 6 months, and I think this is a great reminder that there are organizations out there who are representing us and who are our voice. We do have a voice. I'm interviewing at Scale France next week, Fiona Campbell from Scotland and Victoria from EHHA, and something that they, as well as speaking all about this, they constantly talk about us all as operators being lonely soldiers, and it's so true. We're not aware that we have a voice and that we can work together to fight the hotel lobby, to fight these draconian regulations. And I just thought this was a good story to highlight. If only just to recognise the EHHA and that everybody should be aware of them at least and consider becoming a member, or your own national country level, whichever association is represented.
Yeah, I think that's right, isn't it? It's amazing how many operators aren't part of the local associations, because there's a mentality of like, well, look, if someone else is doing it, that's great. They're organising on my behalf. And obviously I'm involved with the UK affiliate of the EHHA, which is STAR, because we are still in Europe, even though we're not in political Europe. So stop it. We're kind of still involved. When we can walk into a policymaker's office and say we have 25,000 members versus we have 500 members, we're going to get listened to. And I've said this before on the pod, because policymakers are scared of voters, or they're maybe not scared mid-cycle, but they get very, very scared very, very quickly around an election. Imagine if every 4 years Gianpaolo could decide to sack you, Damien. That'd be terrifying, wouldn't it? You wouldn't last more than 4 years, but it's terrifying for these people. They've all got jobs, they've got pensions, they've got mortgage, whatever. Terrified of voters. It's great, isn't it? But it's strength in numbers, and I think that it's amazing how, even because we are a relatively small industry, still people think that they can't make an individual impact, and they can. They absolutely can, because these people are just people. Or if you actually engage with them, like go and find your local MP, go for lunch, show them your operation, show them how many people you're employing, show them your offices, show them your cleaners. Whatever it is, it's massively impactful, and again, it shows the benefits that our sector have for the local economy. Sarah, Spain, come on, you're bound to have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, I really love this idea, especially it's something that I feel like in Europe we haven't done very well. In the US, the operators are very well organized. And I don't know if it is the cultural differences or the language differences amongst the countries, but I feel like if we're going to be listened to, it has to be wider than just even a local association or even a countrywide association. It helps. And the nationwide associations are a really good start. But if we don't have somebody in the EU or talking with policymakers at a wider level, like that's the only thing that really could police this further. Because otherwise, as you say, I think you're absolutely right, Leo. Like the politicians are scared of voters. The problem is there are more voters potentially who are being misled by what is just untruthful information, thinking that short-term rentals are the reason for their, rising rents and all of these things. And as we'll look in a Reuters article that came out this week. Like, it's just not true. Once again, you heard it here first, people. That's why I really like that that kind of phrase in the article that Damien mentioned, which is disproportionate. It's disproportionate, and for me, it's unfounded. It's not based on fact. It's based on fear. And I think that's where we have the biggest challenge as an industry, is that people are always going to be more prone to avoid something that makes them fearful or painful or harmful than they are to run towards something that is providing positive benefit. So we need to tout the benefits of short-term rentals. But I think the big thing that we have to really combat is just the untruthfulness behind the fact that it is rising rents, right? Like, if it wasn't having an impact on rents and it wasn't having an impact on sort of fundamental changes within certain communities or neighborhoods within major European cities, nobody would care. And honestly, even if it was just, I see this all the time in Barcelona, like, sure, okay, first the ecosystem of some neighborhoods in the city center starts to change because there's an influx of tourists. But I don't necessarily think that is because of the short-term. I know it's not because of the short-term rentals, just by sheer volume. It has much more to do with the cruise ship that's dropping off thousands of people a day that don't even stay there or spend any money than it is something else. I mean, I just don't understand why we're demonizing short-term rentals. They're so small and so insignificant in terms of the overall housing supply, even in a major city like Barcelona. And on the other hand, if the problem and the concern is over tourism, especially in the city centers, why are we not going after big cruise ships? And I think the reason we're not going after them is because it's much harder for a government to go up against a major corporation than it is for them to go up against 25,000 small operators. We see this in tax legislation all the time. Small businesses always get screwed.
Yeah.
Big corporations always get tax benefits. Why? Because they're larger, they have more pressure, they have more money to pay for big fancy lawyers. It's the same thing. It's the David and Goliath kind of story for me. It really gets under my skin. It really gets under my skin because it seems not fair. It's just not fair. And I think there's something fundamental in all of us from childhood that is about fairness. And I think especially in Europe, it's something that is much more ingrained, this kind of concept of everybody should be much more on an even playing field, even more so than I think in the States. And somehow the States has managed to do, I think, a lot better job of organizing our industry than we have in Europe. So we have a lot of catching up to do.
I agree. I think the US has been much better organized. Sorry, Damien.
Yeah, I was just also going to agree. I think the US has been amazing in galvanizing an industry and property managers, hosts to see the bigger picture. And whilst Leo, you said we're a small industry. Actually, I'm not sure how small we are. I think we're actually globally quite a big industry, but we're so fragmented, as Sarah says. We're all over the place. In Europe, we've got how many dozens of different languages, cultures, very hard to bring them all together. So in this case, I think the EU kind of focus is really important. But yeah, just justified with facts and case studies, and actually considering things like increasing urban populations and migration and government investment in these countries. These are the factors at play. Of course, we all want regulation. We all appreciate that regulation is important. It's an opportunity for more professional players or for those better operators to provide a better service, but not in this way. This is being crazy.
The cruise ship comparison is really, really good, isn't it, as well? Because obviously Spain, no European country has built enough houses in the last 50 years, but Spain especially haven't built enough houses. So I've got colleagues, we've got an office in Barcelona, I've got a lot of colleagues, and that's always what they say to us. And rents are challenging in Barcelona for many different reasons, but essentially not enough housing. The cruise ship's perfect. It just floats in and floats out, and it pays you really, like you say, the tax to the local government is phenomenal, I imagine, from a cruise ship. But that is not trickling down. That does not trickle down if people sit and eat their dinner on the boat, which probably most of them do. And you come in and just have a quick lunch and you bustle through the streets for a few hours. So we know this, we talk about this, but we don't focus on it enough, right? Is that the average spend of a short-term rental guest is higher than a cruise ship guest, but it's also higher than a hotel guest because you are not getting any of your meals. You're probably going out for all of them. You're much more interacting with the local restaurants, the local markets, all of that good stuff. And let me just stick up for the cruise ship industry, because I'm watching that perpetual cruise on YouTube. I just can't stop watching it, Sarah. Damien, there's a cruise going on for 3.5 years around the world. Isn't that phenomenal?
Get in. We're gonna buy a room, and we're gonna do a timeshare, I think. Come on, Damien, get in now.
Look, I need to come back and talk about cruises, because I am vehemently against cruise ships, cruises, all they do for the environment and everything. But anyway, that's another
story. So let me stick up for the cruise industry before Damien tears it down again. But yeah, ready to go. What I would say is that again, there's lots of coastline. There's lots of areas that probably need that investment and need that tourist hit. They're the areas that should be encouraging the cruise ships in versus a big urban area like Lisbon, like Barcelona. So again, it just all goes back to sensible town planning. It's what type of city do you want to have? How do you want your city to be perceived? What type of visitor do you want? You need to go street for street sometimes in that approach. And I think that the cruise ship one is a really obvious no, right? Because it just sits in your dock. As Damien said, its engines are on, it's polluting the environment without adding much financial benefit, but it's just a nice tax hit. So, someone in the planning office has got to look at that and say, send them down the coast to the quieter town that needs them. So, but then this probably puts us maybe onto more your article, Sarah, but it feels like the hotel lobby is doing a much better job of being organized here, and that's what we're suffering with a little bit. I'll let you go on to talk about your article.
They're the only ones that benefit from this. Not only the other thing that really gets me, right, and as I've always said, maybe it's just a coincidence, but the current president of the Generalitat de Catalunya, his family owns a bunch of hotels. So I just find it interesting. It's a different organizing body and all these kinds of things, right? It's not him who's like mandating this, but I think they're probably all in the soup. So I'll just throw that out there. Let's talk about some facts. This comes from a Reuters article that was released earlier this week, talking about the ban in Barcelona and the lobbying that's being done to try and strike it down. Really interesting here. I want to point out again what Leo said. Barcelona and Spain in particular has not in the past decade or any time since 1970 built fewer houses, while the demand for housing and affordable housing in particular is rising. The other interesting thing is, since the announcement of the ban and the stricter regulations that have been slowly trickling into Barcelona over the last few years, since 2020, the number of listings has halved. And despite that, long-term rental rates have soared 70% since 2020. So it's not the short-term rentals, guys. Hate to tell you. It's the fact that Spain isn't building houses, or they're not fomenting whether that's new developments or whether that is a conversion strategy for now that many offices are doing hybrid work. Like, can you foment taking an office block and turning that into houses? Like, there is so much stock here. There's so much stock that could be housing stock. And I was looking into this the other day, actually, after one of our podcasts for my next investment of, can I buy, like an office and convert it and all these kind of things. They make it so difficult. They make it so incredibly difficult to have that license changed, especially if it's not like an entire building of residential. And then there's for some reason in a city where there is not enough housing, there is a limit per square square meter or square kilometer or whatever of density of housing units. Why would you do that when you might have half of a building that's being used for offices? Even a third of that would in every building that has, let's say, an entire floor that's offices, or 2 floors or 3 floors with offices, turn one of those floors into housing, and you've changed the crisis around. It's like they don't think about actual solutions. They just want to demonize and win votes, and it's not helping anybody. So there's my soapbox. I love it. Not for you guys.
I love that you've jumped on it. I love that. Yeah. Let's focus on that. It could be the offices, the warehouses that could be housing stock. So important, isn't it? Like, why are we not relaxing planning? And the other side is, let's talk about this north to south migration that's going on. So you've got young entrepreneurs who are from, let's say, the colder climes of Europe, and I would include the UK in that, even though we've cut ourselves off from the block, who want to come and live in a beautiful place like Barcelona, and the European Union gives them the right to do so. You might leave the windswept shores of Ireland and go and move to the south of Spain. So that migration's happening, and that's also compounding this, is people want to live in Barcelona. Hey, that's a really good compliment to Barcelona, but you need to be ready to capitalize on that, because A, you want to be open to business for tourists, but B, you want to be open to business for digital nomads and people that are going to move south. We've said that a few times. Damien, you probably got some thoughts on that.
I just want to back up what Sarah was saying about commercial properties. Gianpaolo and I and Skeleton, we've been looking at potentially hiring an office in Barcelona, just a small one with a view to growing our brand, growing our company. I found it staggering when we first started looking about 6 months ago how many commercial units are available across Barcelona. Not just available, have been available for years, and lying dormant. And for the most part, actually, the landlords don't really care. I don't know how or why, but there doesn't seem to be enough of an incentive for them to rent these units out. But honestly, look into it. It's crazy how many commercial units there are, specifically in Barcelona. That's only my point of reference here. Whilst there is this potential ban happening,
there's that, and there's also the other side of the phenomenon, Damien, which is when you go on to, especially if you're trying to like purchase a property, let's say, that's already operating as an investment, you might go on there and the property looks great. Like it looks like a place that I would be fine renting. And it doesn't have what's called a cédula de habitabilidad, which basically means like a certificate of habitability, I guess it is. Like you can't legally live there, which means you can't legally rent it. You can rent it as an office, and so you can sign an office contract for the tenant, but you can't actually sign it as a house. But it's been completely converted, and it looks fine. It's not. There's some that are sketchy, right? That are like, underground and no natural light and whatever. But there's many of them that look completely fine, and because it's missing one little thing, I was looking into like the rules for converting a property, and there's just so many barriers, right? It's like the ceilings have to be at least 265, and if they're 264 or 263 and a half, it's a no. There's minimum height requirements, which I think all of these rules were put in place with good intentions, but they need to be revised, especially if housing stock is a problem. And the other issue that you have in a city like Barcelona is that for some of the existing properties, unless it's a property that you already own, it is completely not profitable to purchase a property and rent it out. You would be losing money. I'll give you an example. To purchase, let's say, the property, a property in Eixample in Barcelona, that might cost you 600 grand for 2 or 3 bedrooms. That's a mortgage payment of like 3,500 a month, depending on your mortgage rate and what you're able to negotiate. A property here would rent for 1,250. So you're not even making your mortgage payment, much less are you making even a small profit. Who the hell is going to purchase a property to put it on the long-term rental market? Nobody. And nobody can, and the vast majority of people who actually live here can't really afford to purchase a property of that amount anyway, based on their salary. And so it's like this ladder of not only is there not enough housing stock, it doesn't make good financial sense to purchase a property and rent it out. And it's not even just, hey, I'm not making a massive profit. It's losing money to do that. And then on top of it, there's, all these ridiculous rules that don't allow for office conversions or don't allow for, more than a certain number of residential properties within a certain, square kilometer within a certain block. It's, I just don't know. I don't understand.
I feel like you two could go at this all day. We just need to get you both an alcoholic drink and a bar stool each, and we'd have 8 hours of content, right?
Oh my gosh, it'd be great.
I'll throw Dublin into the equation here as well. The lack of housing stock in Dublin, people queuing. You might have dozens of people queuing to try and to rent a property out. You turn up and there's no point. It's crazy. So Barcelona is one of many cities around Europe. This is a trend that it's up to governments to step in here. It's not just down to scapegoating short-term rentals. Anyway, I think we're all agreeing on that being our.
But also, let me take it a different direction. Then we'll talk about Portugal quickly. Also, there's a load of visitors you want to grab and get your hands on. So you need to think about how you get your hands on them, because it's going to help you then get more revenue into the city to encourage more building, right? And build the region that you want to build up. Because we talked about this so much on the pod, but it's worth saying again, like, there's a whole market in Asia, the growing middle class in Asia, that are coming to Europe. They want to come and take the perfect photo in these beautiful places that they've read about and they've seen on TV and they've seen on the internet. Like, be open to business, be like, capitalize on that, because it's going to help your local restaurateurs, your cafe owners, your business people, tours, excursions, everything. It's just going to bring people up. And I think beauty for beauty's sake is wonderful, but it's even better if someone can, if it's even better if you can monetize it, right? We just spent the time in the south of France, and every little market town we were going to is bustling with tourists, right? And that's what allows these towns to remain profitable and beautiful, right? I know there has to be rules around levels, and I agree with that, but again, it's sensible rules that encourage the right type of tourism, which segues me brilliantly into Portugal, because I feel like there's a country that is doing things, relatively well in this respect. So I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, okay? But it's the Alojamento Local, which is a ruling. Oh God, the look they've both given me for anyone who's not listening, who's just listening. Okay, I'm going to power through the side eyes I'm getting from them. The ruling refers to regulations governing short-term rental properties and frequently used accommodation by tourists. Here's the key bit, right? Portugal sees the benefit. The ruling aims to balance the benefit of tourism with the preservation of local communities, So allowing different regions to take a different approach depending on what their needs are. So this is amazing, right? This is like each local area can take the action it needs to take based on how many short-term rentals they have, how many they want to have, keeping in mind that neighborhoods have got to be affordable, but actually restaurants and bars and all those things benefit from having a certain percentage of short-term rentals. So we've talked about the mayor of Porto. I think the mayor of Porto's had a hand in this, because he's done this where different regions, so different neighborhoods within Porto, short-term rentals are encouraged and supported because they want to bring them up, and other areas they have to register because they feel that they've got enough. Brilliant. We like this. And yeah, so I think it's the decentralizing of the rulings, which we just need to take that approach in Europe, I think, and give more power to local mayors in different cities, instead of making rulings that affect whole areas without a thought about what the nuance is within that area. So let's give the example of Porto and Lisbon, where they have a thriving digital nomad scene as well, because they give these visas. Very, very smart. Like, they're just doing smart things to bring in the type of person they want, and they give that message that these cities are open for business. So it's great. And with that digital nomad traffic comes more short-term rental tourism, because people think, oh, Lisbon's really cool. Like, I regularly speak to entrepreneurs starting businesses. They're in Lisbon and Porto very, very often. This might irritate Sarah, but people often call Lisbon the new Barcelona.
They do say that. Yeah,
right?
I've heard it.
They're opening the doors. They're saying, come. And they know that in terms of like what it does to the economy. So we've got some stats here. Airbnb are involved in this, because Airbnb are also encouraging, saying that they're welcoming this ruling, is that an Airbnb guest spent averagely 116 euros a day when they're in these cities. And short-term rental travel accounted in 2023 2.4 billion euros in revenue to Portugal. Supports 55,000 jobs as well across our sector. So we can see the importance of what we're trying to do here, and they're just taking a different approach. Any thoughts on Portugal?
Well, so this is a reversal of a previous ruling in Portugal, as far as I'm aware, a very recent reversal, whereby there was, alongside many other European countries, very strict laws set down. But look, this is we've spoken about justified proposals and sensible regulation planning, and this was one of the few examples of that. But I think it's a great message, and I think one to be applauded, and one that I hope many other European countries look on and say, hey, that's fair. Let's be fair here before we set down is like draconian rules, blanket rules.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Damien. Like for me, it goes back to that word fair. It feels like somebody actually sat down and looked at real data before making decisions here. And that is encouraging. I think especially, if we can keep an eye on it and we have the data to kind of prove and track that, then hopefully that's something that we can utilize as an industry to kind of lobby for sensible regulation.
Well, look, gang, we're over time. We've gone very heavy in the regulation this week, but Sarah, we haven't talked about it for a few weeks, so I think we just had to, didn't we? We had to take this one on, I think.
I had to get on my soapbox. I couldn't help it. Sorry.
Happy nearly Thanksgiving, Sarah. Send some photos. We're very excited for you to be back in America. You've got that going on. Damien, what have you got going on? I feel like a small event in France might be happening sometime. Is that right?
500-600 people. So yeah, so it's that'll be a bit of fun. Bit of wine and cheese for Gianpaolo and I. Our French is a little bit rusty. I said yesterday on LinkedIn, so we might take a bit of a back seat and let the team do what they do and produce a great job.
Not a bad place to go, is it? To take a back seat. Well, look, gang, I'll trump both of you. I'm getting married tomorrow, so
That's right.
Fun times happening. Yeah, fun times.
Yes, and then moving the next day. You're crazy. He's doing it all in one 24 hours. It's insane.
The most stressful things in your life you were doing back-to-back days.
Yeah, it's a real test of the relationship, isn't it? And by the way, and we're doing it all with a kid on either arm, right? We've got two. I said this last time. We've got two small children, so this is we're kind of doing things a little bit out of sync here. But yeah, here we go. If we survive this, we can survive anything, right?
You're taking to the next level, Leo, by moving house on your honeymoon.
I love it. Forget my turkey pictures. We want pictures of screaming babies while you're moving things and in Jasmine in a wedding dress. That's all I want to see.
You'll get a chaos wedding scene. No one looking at the camera, just everything everywhere. You'll get it. All right. Thanks so much for joining us at home. If you've enjoyed today, please hit like, share, subscribe in all the usual social places. Until next week. Many thanks.